Hey guys, welcome back. Today I want to talk about the power of knowing yourself and 3 stages that go into this process. First off, I want to say I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, or night whenever you're watching this video. It's been a while since I've posted, and that has been primarily because a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about in this video have been things that I have been, engaging on in the process also. The book that I'm working on, it goes in conjunction with this. The website, everything goes in conjunction with this. You may have heard me talk about in some of my previous videos about self-discovery. And I talk about that because I think that it is really one of the critical things or processes that you can engage on in life. And I think that a lot of problems that we may face, in our lives, a lot of the issues that we may face, a lot of the adversity, a lot of the things that we find ourselves wanting, but we don't have, and we're finding it difficult to get. I think a lot of those things we can realize and a lot of those things we can obtain as a result of finding ourselves. And sometimes maybe the goals change, but that all comes into knowing yourself. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here as I go along. This was a thought that came to mind yesterday, and I wrote it down on a little notepad, and I took notes on it this morning, or I expanded it, talked about it. I just wanted to make sure that I covered the topics that I wanted to talk about today, so I want to have a little structure here. So this is what I'm going to be talking about, the power of knowing yourself. And I'm going to break this down into 3 stages of self-discovery. And this is just for the purpose of this video. Now, of course, things can, there's a lot more that goes into this, but I want to kind of structure this in this way. So 3 stages. These stages are going to go in an order, but it is important to note that it doesn't mean that these stages can't go on at the same time. As a matter of fact, a lot of the stages, or 2 of these stages, there's only 3. 2 of the stages I'm going to talk about, they can be going on at the same time. Actually, all of them really can be going on at the same time. But sometimes you may find yourself bouncing back and forth, more emphasis on one stage, if that is a active choice, And I'm bringing this to you based off of my experience. This is, an evaluation of how my life has been, what I've been going through in the past couple of years. And this is how this process has came to me. And I'm hoping that I can share this to you kind of to show you some of the importance of this, the benefits that you can gain from self-discovery, and a bit of a process of how you can, some of the benefits that you will realize as you go through it. So one of the first stages that I want to talk about is really finding out what you want in life. I'm sure this is not something new. I've spoken about this before, but this, I believe, is one of the important things or stages in the process of self-discovery. Why? That is because, well, you won't get what you want out of life if you don't necessarily know what it is, or you don't have a sense of what it is. Now, whatever that thing is not as important as the fact that whatever it is connects with you, right? So that thing can change. Whatever that is can change. But when you get in tune with yourself, you get a better sense of what brings fulfillment in your life, what brings happiness in your life. And the reason why I say this is because, well, if you don't have a sense of what that is, a lot of times people will spend a lot of their life chasing things or temporary pleasures or temporary, things that they think are going to bring happiness to them. And oftentimes it won't. And I believe that the reason for that is because whatever that is that they're chasing, they don't truly have a connection with it, right? And I was talking to some coworkers the other day, and one of the things that one of them mentioned was something that I realized in my life also. I remember, years ago, I spent, my time, money in college, pursuing a degree that I thought that, hey, I want to do this. I want to climb the corporate ladder. I wanted to, progress and get raises and, all these sorts of things, and, have a good job and settle down, and all these sorts of things that I thought that I wanted, but they weren't. And as I've grown older, I realized that those things won't necessarily bring happiness to me, that there's something a bit deeper for me. And, if I hadn't come to that realization, I would continue to do or go down the same path that I'm, on currently, or the same path that I started. And, I would probably live a life wondering or having this thought that something's missing and never really finding out what that is. And, and another reason why, or another thing that can happen if you don't really have a sense of what you want, is you can, just find yourself really having fickle interests. You're bouncing between one thing to another, just trying to find something, or, you probably don't know why you're doing it, but, your emotions go one thing, or you think you want to do this, you get really excited about it, realize you don't want to do it, or you get excited about this, realize you can't do it. And, you spend years doing that. Life, when you think about it, time goes kind of quick. I just turned 27 not too long ago, and it seems like these past almost 3 decades have flown by. And I think about it, that same period ahead, I'll be twice that age at some point. So time goes, and I don't want to say this in such a way that you gotta scramble, you gotta do this and do that, but if you can live your life and obtain what you really want to attain, or you can live a fulfilling life and wake up and have joy in your life and those sorts of things, then to be able to do what you want to do, then I think that makes a huge difference. What we do from the moment we wake up, all this stuff has a difference in the quality of our life. So I think it's very important to have a sense of what you want. So I think that this is the first stage of self-discovery. It's really taking that time to, spending that time with yourself and really evaluating what you're doing right now. Is this really bringing joy? If you look 10 years ahead of your life, ask yourself that question. 10 years, if I'm doing the same thing I'm doing now, if I wake up and do the same thing I do each day, if I do the same thing, Monday through Friday and Saturday through Sunday, really, does that bring happiness in your life? Ask yourself that question. What am I doing? What am I doing here? Or what is the purpose? What is the purpose of waking up and doing what I'm doing? What is the, I want to say end goal, but what is the purpose in that? I think that these sorts of questions, and this will be something that I talk about in the next stage. These sorts of questions can sometimes leave you in a state of feeling that, feeling helpless in a way, or feeling down. But I think that it's important to ask ourselves these things. Sometimes we may fear facing how reality actually is. We may fear assessing where our lives are right now, where we are in our lives. But I think that being able to face those things is very important. Again, it's really the only way you're going to be able to find out what you truly want. And, it's just a part of the process. So developing a sense of what you want out of life, as you grow older, as I said, these things may change, but the importance is when you have a connection with yourself, I think you'll find that you'll always be on the path that really goes with your frequency. And I described this before as when you get off of your frequency, you may find that you're missing something in your life. You may find that you're just wandering. You may find that you're just you're not making any progress in life. But when you have a sense of what you want, you can tell when you're on that path. You can tell when you're on that frequency, and you can tell when you separate yourself. And when you realize that you're separate from your frequency, then you can bring yourself back to it. And that's what's going to progress you towards, the life that you want, what you really want in life: happiness, joy, fulfillment. That's what's going to progress you towards that. So, again, this is the first stage. And I think that is one of the most important things that we really have to be able to question ourselves on is, what are we doing? And what do we really want? So the second stage that I want to talk about is developing your philosophy. And I took notes here. Well, I made notes and I put difficulty on these things. And the first one, I put medium difficulty. That may sound weird, and time wise, that, taking the time to discover what you want, it may take a little time. It may take, don't want to say that this is going to take a few days. Me, I feel like I've done these things, and I've been on this process for several years, and it took maybe 2 years ago to really being able to say that, oh, this is what I really want to dedicate my life to, and this is what I want to accomplish in my life. And as I grow older, as I said, that continues to grow, that continues to evolve. It continues to take more shape, get more specific, and I'm able to, crunch this down into attainable goals, to specific goals. So yeah, that, this process of discovering what you want, it takes a little time. It's not the most difficult thing to do, but it takes time, I believe, a few years, few months, or whatever. But developing your philosophy, I put that this is a bit of a higher difficulty, and this may also take a few years. Now, developing your philosophy, I think that this is more so something that's kind of forced, and I'll explain what I mean there. So the reason why you want to develop your philosophy is that, life is difficult, right? Life is challenging. Life is going to present us with many challenges. Each day can be something new. It's something that can be traumatizing. Each day presents its own challenge in a way. So Developing your philosophy really is your way of discovering how to navigate life as efficiently as you can, right? So let's say at this point you have an idea of what you want. Let's just say this is the second stage. Let's say you have an idea of what you want. You're still in that process of discovering yourself, but you've gotten to that point now where you can say that, hey, I think that this is going to bring some joy in my life. This is what I really want to be able to do, right? Maybe that's making a difference on someone's life, or maybe that's being able to do things for other people. And I say this because this is really part of what I want to be able to do, right? So let's say that you've discovered what that is. Your philosophy, developing your philosophy, is going to be important in that, because it's going to allow you to navigate the difficulties, the challenges that are going to come while you're in pursuit of what it is that you want. This is going to be a tool in a way. Your philosophy, let's just think of it as your guidelines or your tools to living, and this is going to be what shapes you in such a way that allows you to have to navigate the difficulty, right? It allows you to get through the challenges that are going to come. Life is going to be full of challenges, and that's just the way it is. You know, I a few months ago, this thought hit me about life being, you know, and I don't know, I think this was said in some stage of Buddhism. I don't remember, but there was some line about life is suffering, and I don't want to talk about it in that aspect, but this thought hit me, and I said, you know what? Maybe there's some part of that, right? That from the moment we're born, we're suffering in a way. That is always going to be challenging. There's going to be no easy point. There's going to be, you know, I think that what I had been doing before was trying to find some state of myself of being able to be immune or, you know, not bothered by challenges. But it hit me that, you know, maybe that's not possible. Maybe life is meant to be this way. Or if it's not meant to be this way, it's just the way it is, right? It's just reality. From the moment you're born, there's going to be challenges. There's going to be challenges to the moment you die. And, you know, for a bit that discouraged me, but, you know, then I started shifting my focus, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's just the way it is. But that doesn't mean that I can't develop myself in order to still navigate life as efficiently as I can, as a strong version of myself, you know? So again, life is going to be difficult. You know, obtaining whatever you want, wherever you discover in that first phase, that first stage, obtaining that is going to be difficult. So it is important that you develop your philosophy in order to navigate your life. So developing your philosophy is kind of forced, and really there's only two sides of this. You can either allow your philosophy to develop in a way that's going to hinder you, or you can allow it to develop in a way that's going to benefit you. For example, I actually just picked up this book by Friedrich Nietzsche. I think that I'm saying his name right. I think it's called I'll put the name up here. I can't remember the name, but anyways, it talks about nihilism, and it describes nihilism as this thought that life has no meaning, no purpose. And you know, I found a lot of people that do have this sort of mindset, and when you navigate life thinking that way, personally, I don't believe that's going to serve you. You know, for example, like I say, if you really know what you want out of life, having that sort of mindset is not going to benefit you. It's not going to benefit you in mood. It's not going to benefit you in, you know, having a good spirit in your life. Is not going to benefit you in any way, at least no ways that I have found. So navigating your life feeling that, you know, there's no purpose, there's no meaning in anything, and everything's just hopeless, there's no meaning to life, navigating life that way is not going to benefit you. On the flip side, when you develop it in such a way that says that, hey, life is going to be challenging, you know, there's a lot of things that I don't know, but I'm going to live and try to figure them out. And while I figure these things out, I'm going to be progressing towards the goals that I have, right? So, you know, I talk about this a lot with being able to find the positives in the negatives. That's another thing that's going to serve you well when it comes to developing your philosophy, you know, with seeing things as they are, seeing things in reality, and acknowledging the fact that some things suck, right? But that doesn't mean that I can get discouraged by them. That doesn't mean that I should get discouraged by them. That doesn't mean that I can't continue to push in my life for something that I want, right? So that is an important part of it. Like I said, it's philosophy, finding your philosophy or developing your philosophy. You don't really have a choice in that. I think we're all developing our own philosophies, right? And it's the medium that we live on. So really it comes down to developing it in such a way that's not going to hinder you. So there are a few things that go into the development of your philosophy, right? That go into the development of your guide to navigating your life. And one of those is how you respond to situations, how you respond to circumstances and situations and challenges in life. As I said before, they're going to happen, right? And the only thing that you can do is determine or choose how you respond to them. If you respond to challenges in life by cowering, by finding excuses, by complaining that things are difficult, again, it is not going to benefit you. But if you respond to challenges by grounding yourself and saying that, hey, this is difficult, but there is a way, trying to find whatever that way is. And it's more so about just not responding to things in a rash way, right? Not responding to things by heightened emotions, by anger, rage, these sorts of things. So really how you respond to situations, if you practice this and respond in, a rational way, you ground yourself, you can take control of your emotions and rather than letting them control you, then you'll begin to develop, this will actually begin to become normal to you, right? You won't even have to make an effort to do this. And this is something that I've noticed in my life with things that would anger me before. A lot of times now I'm much quicker to being able to flip that switch and say, hey, ground yourself, man, come back to yourself. All right, this is the way things are. Yeah, sure, they suck, but all right, what do I got to do to improve, things going forward? How can I respond to this in a rational way? How can I respond to this in a way that's going to minimize the damage and improve things going forward? So you really got to be able to do that. Your daily activities also are a part of developing your guide, right? So for me personally, I do a lot of reading, I do a lot of writing, a lot of studying. Like I said before, I study philosophy, psychology. I go in a lot of these areas because I found that they have been very beneficial to me. Some of the things I actually study when it comes to philosophy, I introduce thought processes in my mind that I may not have had before, right? And I want to say this, that studying philosophy it can kind of take you in some dark places. Even this process of finding yourself, it can take you in some dark places or some deep places when it comes to, I don't want to say dark, I want to say some challenging places when it comes to challenging the beliefs that you've had, challenging the opinions and the views that you've had, right? Being able to see things from a different perspective, as I said before, that's important. But these things, they can take you in some deep thought places, and sometimes they can weigh you down a little bit. But that is one of the things I think that is very important, because when you don't introduce that challenge to yourself, then you don't grow. So for me, study of philosophy has been a part of my growth, because it has introduced some deeper thoughts that, again, sometimes you don't want to go in those places, but when you find that you go through them, you'll grow. And the process of growing involves challenging yourself. So those are some things that I do. I wrote down some more: exercise, meditation, reflection, that time in nature. I talked about this before. Exercise, really, that's a way of challenging yourself also, right? Sometimes I think it's good to introduce challenges to our lives, to introduce a little bit of difficulty, right? If you go through your day not doing much, hey, going for that little run, it may be hot outside, and it may be, it may be a challenge to get through that mile run, but at the end of it, you'll feel great, right? And you've grown in a way. You've proven to yourself that you can do this. You can go through a little bit of difficulty, right? And that opens the door and increases your confidence, increases your courage to be able to move forward. And really, that goes into the next phase. So I think those challenges are very important. You have to be willing to face them, because that, again, that plays into developing your philosophy. So the third phase is realizing your potential. Now, by the time that you get to this stage, you're going to start connecting the dots, and you're going to start really realizing just what you're capable of doing, right? You're going to be realizing just how significant your life is and the impact that you can have on the world, right? So this stage is really, it goes in conjunction with that previous stage. There's a close relationship between those two, because that process of developing your philosophy, right? When you're going through the difficulties of your life, when you're trying to figure out how can you navigate this as how can you get stronger? How can you navigate this? And how can you conquer the challenges that are going to come? You're going to start to grow. You're going to start to strengthen yourself, both physically, mentally, and you're going to start to, really get in tune with yourself and see just how capable you really are, right? And I think a lot of people probably don't start things or don't begin things that they really want to do because they don't think that they can, right? They don't have that confidence in themselves to be able to say that, I can do this, right? But you develop that confidence by doing. You develop that confidence by going through the challenges, right? With just about with anything. When in sports, for example, you're not going to become an all-star player if you don't go through the challenge, if you don't go through the the practice, if you don't go, you don't strengthen yourself in whatever discipline it is, if you don't go through that process of developing those skills and practicing, and because those things are challenges, if you don't go through that, then you won't develop the skills, right? So, it's not even about some innate talent that you have or something that you was born with. It's not about that. You got to develop yourself. You got to go through the process of strengthening yourself, and through that process, that's how you're going to develop the skills or whatever is required to do what you really want to do. And one of the things that I have found also during this stage is that you will tend to want to avoid escapism. This is one of those things that I think that sometimes we'll do. We'll come home, watch TV, play video games, or whatever it is. Sometimes because we just want to escape reality, and that's fine and all. But when you think about when you do this hours and hours and hours, through your day, how is that going to benefit you, right? It's not going to benefit you. And again, and I'm saying this because at this point, if you're watching this, then maybe you do want to figure out what that is that you want in life, right? Or maybe you already know it and you want to figure out how to get to it. And you want to be able to avoid those things that aren't going to benefit you in getting there. But again, so when you get here, you're going to really start avoiding that escapism, because one of the things you're going to realize is that there is so much beauty to life, to reality, to the real world. There's so much beauty to that. Sometimes now I don't even really want to, I don't even go to movies that much anymore. I rarely game. Before those were methods of escaping for me, but now it's like there's so much beauty out in the world. There's so many beautiful things out there to experience, so many things to see. And this real world is better than the virtual world, right? This real world is better than what is thrown in our faces, through media and through movies and all these sorts of things. This real world has a lot in it, right? And that's one of the things that, I found in my life that, at this point, I don't want to escape anymore. At this point, I want to be able to realize some of those beauties of the world out there, right? I want to be able to experience the beautiful things out in this world right now, and to really learn, discover new things, new places, and that sort of thing. So that's just one of the things that I want to add there, is that you will really start to resist escapism, and you'll kind of really see just how beautiful the world is out there, and you realize your place in it. So those are the 3 stages: discovering what you want, developing your philosophy, and realizing your potential. And of course, by this time, you'll be with the realization of your potential, you're going to be really figuring out how you can get what you want, right? At this point, you're going to be, coming up with ideas or things that you can do, things that you now know that you can do, that are going to help you get to that goal that you have, or whatever you want to achieve, whatever you want to experience. So the realization of your potential helps build that confidence and helps you embark on that journey of, hey, this is my plan, or putting the plan into place that's going to help you, really bring the life that you want into reality. I do want to mention just a few benefits of really being in tune with yourself. And one of those benefits is that you won't be looking for happiness in other people. I think that this is one of the things that plagues a lot of people, is that they feel that, they must be in a relationship, or they must have a lot of friendships in order to be happy. One of the things that I have discovered is that I cannot obtain happiness from anyone else. I cannot put that on anyone. That's not a burden that I can put on anyone else. It's not even the fact of being a burden. It's more so that I know that I can only find happiness for myself. And that doesn't mean that I can't have anyone in my life. It just means that I know that my happiness, that my feeling of fulfillment is only something that I can find for myself. It's only something that I can bring into my life. And if I spent years looking for that in someone else, then I will never find it. And I think that that's one of the things with other people too. Sure, other people can bring happiness in your life, enjoy in your life, but they really can't. They can't give it to you, right? And a lot of times these sorts of things are temporary, and we're just living on brittle ice. Just something that's waiting to break. But when you engage on that process of discovering yourself, you really discover what it is that can bring happiness in your life, and only you can bring that thing into reality. Only you can obtain that. Another benefit is that you'll be less vulnerable to being manipulated by other people. When you have a better sense of yourself, and you have a better sense of what you want out of life, then you're less persuaded by the things that other people want, and the way, sometimes people can try to use you to get what they want, right? And that's one of the things that you got to be careful of, because in that process of helping them, then you may find yourself getting very separated from yourself and separated from things that you want in your life that are going to bring joy to your life. So with knowing yourself, you'll be able to catch that, and you'll, like I said, you'll be less vulnerable to being deceived by other people, to being manipulated by other people, and being used by other people. You'll also be able to face challenges and respond rationally. I talked about this briefly before, but you'll be able to respond to the challenges in life, not from an emotional perspective. A lot of times you'll find that when you respond to things in heightened emotions, there's much more risk of causing destruction, right? There's much more risk to hurting other people, to hurting your future, to hurting yourself. It's just something that you really don't want to do. So through that process of, really developing your philosophy, you'll begin to develop that. You'll be able to respond to things with a little bit more composure. You'll be able to ground yourself a little bit more. And I think that that's very important to, navigating life efficiently, to getting what you want. Also, as I mentioned in the first stage, when you get a better sense of what you want out of life, then you'll begin to really shave away those things that aren't going to assist you in getting there. You'll shave away those interests that aren't going to help you to get there. You'll be able to realize when you're wasting time, when your time isn't being used efficiently to help you to obtain what you really want out of life. So that's one of the things too. You'll just be able to shave off those interests, and you'll be able to kind of take control of your time, right? You'll be able to make people respect your time. And that's one of the things that you have to make people do, because if you don't respect your time, then other people won't either. One of the last benefits that I want to talk about is that you will be adaptable. Now, I do say self-discovery, and I do want to express this here, that this doesn't mean that you're rigid. This doesn't mean that you're trying to find some version of yourself that doesn't change in life. As you grow in life, like I said before, your interests may change. What you really want may change throughout different stages. There may be different things that you want in different stages of your life, right? The main important factor is that you're connected with yourself, and whatever it is that you're pursuing goes in conjunction with what's going to bring fulfillment in your life, right? As long as you're in tune with yourself, then you likely won't find yourself chasing something that's not connected with you. And that's the important thing about knowing yourself, is that the things that you go after, they are truly connected with who you are. And, they're not just interests or things that you think are going to bring joy into your life. They're not going to be that. But through that process, you'll always be adapting. You'll always be able to adapt to, new challenges and circumstances that may arise in life. And, these things you'll be less vulnerable to being destroyed by these things, being let down by these things. So again, with self-discovery, you're discovering more about yourself, but you're growing in that process. So it's not that you're just finding some concrete version of yourself and that's that. But through the process of life, as long as you're living, you're growing. As long as you're growing and you're living, then there's more about yourself that you can find. So I think I've touched on everything that I want to talk about today. I do apologize for the length of this video. When I wrote these notes, I actually told myself to keep this between 5 to 10 minutes, and I'm vulnerable to jabbering on sometimes. But anyways, I think I've covered everything that I want to talk about today, and I hope that I've said something that can benefit you. Again, this is a topic that I will continue to talk about as time goes forward, and I'll continue to try to structure these things that I can crunch them down into a smaller time frame. And I think that that's something that a lot of you guys probably prefer, shorter videos. So that's something that I'll work on as I go forward. But anyways, again, I hope that you have enjoyed this video. I hope that I've said something that can benefit you. And if you're new to the channel, then subscribe, stick around. And until next time, I'll catch you later.